hi first, or you want me to say hi?
No,
first?
you gotta introduce me.
You and this introduce me stuff, it's gonna get old real fast. And you really gonna turn your head that way?
Let's do it.
I'm gonna put this in.
What's so mean?
Hi, welcome to Wedded Wednesdays. My name is Patrice Hunt, and I'm here with the Marcus Hunt
Hey,
again this week with the wanting to be introduced. Babe, what are we talking about today?
leadership.
Leadership. I think it was interesting because last week, because Sunday on my podcast, I talked on leadership, but it was more from a perspective of like characteristics of a good leader and things like that. It wasn't from the confines of marriage or anything like that. So I'm wondering what we'll talk about today that will, mesh or overlap with what I talked about on the Sunday's podcast.
All right. Well, how about you give a little bit of a snapshot what the podcast was about?
I just talked about the characteristics of a good leader, and it was being a God follower, being humble,
Okay.
God follower, humble, good steward, trustworthy, and diligent. Those were my 5 things that I talked about on the podcast. So it might be, and I talked about King Hezekiah and King Josiah from 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles and all of that, and like how they were good leaders. And I also talked about how being a good leader, well, not even if you're good or bad, the way the leader goes, there goes the people. So if you have a good leader, then the people usually move, like at least in the Bible, when it was saying that the king did good in the eyes of the Lord, then usually during that time the people were doing good too. And if it was one of those situations where the king was evil in the eyes of the Lord, usually the people were like worshiping idols and all this, that, and other. So that's basically what it was about.
Okay.
And if you want to watch it, go to Sunday Showers from the Source and check it out.
Nice plug.
Yeah.
All right.
So what do you think about, since like last week was about submission and I talked a lot. So this week is about leadership and I'm going to be quiet.
Well, I would say again, knowing the context of leadership. We're talking about in marriage, then what's your common ground? If the common ground is the Bible, and we're talking scripture based, and we're talking for husbands, then I think it's pretty simple. Now, I say it's simple, but that doesn't mean that it's something easily done. Of those 5 topics that you spoke on earlier, the stewardship part, I fail.
You think so?
Yeah, I know so.
Why do you I don't want to.
You can ask the question. It's a conversation.
Why do you think you fail on a good? Because and I'm not supposed to be talking.
Go ahead.
But like from the direction that I went with the podcast from Sunday, it was about like not necessarily being a good steward of money or materialistic things, but it was also being a good steward of the people and the talent that God has blessed you with. So it's like if there are people under you who do things better than you do within like delegating and stewarding all the resources that are at your fingertips. So what part of stewardship do you feel that you failed?
Well, see, you weren't talking about money, but
In this instance, you are.
in marriage, I'm gonna talk about it all.
Okay.
I feel that sometimes I can get in my own way, which then affects the family of what I would like to see happen, and then therefore um, either do or don't do certain things, and then play Monday morning quarterback and look at it and say, I probably shouldn't have done that, or we probably should have did this. Maybe, financially speaking, things would have worked out a little bit differently. And then I'll play that over and over again in my head and what ifs. And then I allow too much time to go into that, and then start just second guessing myself on any and everything. Now that's all goes on without you guys ever knowing.
Yeah.
But I'll, pull off to myself or just sit there, be quiet or whatnot. And that's what be going through my head of, if I didn't do this, that would have put us in a better position. We wouldn't be at this point right now. Not to say that we could avoid anything,
Right.
but because you never know how it would go. But I just think it's a mindset kind of a thing. And then even with the delegation piece of it, sometimes I like to see it done a certain way.
Me too.
And I know. But that also means that when when we're trying to do something and it's not being done how we want it, want to see it, then we go do it.
Yeah.
And
or in the time frame we want to see it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. But it's one of those things where you just want it how you want it, but that can come off, a little brash as well. Meaning to the person that you delegated it to or that volunteered to do it, and now you come off, whether you say, you know what, never mind, I got it. Whether you do it that way or, you know what, let me just show you. And then you end up doing the whole thing. And then, that person may not, feel, useful or whatever at that particular point in time. So it's one of those things, the manner in which you do it. And so I feel like I need to continue to work and pray in that area, especially in the finance area. But more importantly, just more so, trying to make sure that how I'm leading is more so being led by God and not of my own understanding and of my own will that I'm trying to push, my own agenda that I'm trying to push and put on the family, and then wrap the bow of it on it and say, well, this is what I was praying for. And God is blessing us with that. And so, so those are the things that, how I look at it and say, well, yeah, I fail in those areas because that's a struggle. And it means more and affects me more because I see it as I'm touching the family with this, So kids may not know, but they see it by not being able to do something.
Yeah.
Not that that's bad or anything like that, because they do a lot and what have you, but I feel bad when I have to say no, not because of a disciplinary or, kind of thing, but just no because of a decision that was made that now is affecting the family.
Right.
So, so from stewardship in that standpoint, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't feel like you failed when you do. I mean, I just feel like owning a business is just a poop shoot. It's like sometimes things are perfect, everything goes great, you got all the business you need. Sometimes you don't. And I think that you also function the best you can with the information you have. Now, will agree that it's important that we ask God to lead us and stuff like that instead of just like saying, okay, this is what I want and I'm going to try to bring you along.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you feel like you've done that, I can understand that, even though I don't see that as a failure. I just see it like as a little misstep. But if you feel like that was an instance that you done, I can understand that.
Well, I look at it as a test that I didn't pass. And, there's not enough time in a day to necessarily pray for every choice or decision
Right.
that you need to make. And so that's where it comes from more so, is that I feel that I have a great relationship with God and I'm constantly talking with him. But when, I stumble in those areas, I'm like, well, I need to continue to be mindful of that. Okay, I'm not perfect. I'm not gonna get it right. But then I look at it was like, but if it was just me, then that only affects me.
Yeah.
Instead of it, touching the family. And so that's more so kind of like I said, what I'm referring to when I say that.
Okay.
Just the decisions or good or bad. Good, everybody's okay, everybody's happy. It affects everybody. Everybody can reap those benefits. But when it's bad, I made that choice, but you have to deal with it. That kind of thing. So
it's kind of like you said, like Monday morning quarterback or whatever, as it's kind of like if somebody throws a pass and it's like this crazy pass and then the guy don't catch it and he's like, oh, he shouldn't have threw that pass. That was just horrible. But then he throw that same pass and the guy catch it.
mm-hmm.
And then everybody's like giving him accolades and like, she's like, oh, that was amazing. He's such an amazing quarterback and blah, blah, blah. It's just kind of, you never know what's going to work and what's not going to work. So, I think the important thing is to be in God's will and to check your motives. That's the biggest thing, I think. Like if you're moving with being led by God as your default, I think that even if you make a misstep, it'll all work out, which I feel like it does. It doesn't always work out the way we would plan or we would like.
In the time that we would.
Like, but it always works out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, like I said, that's the big picture. That's the whole picture. Seeing where, where we maybe have gotten off of course and then going through that season, going through that test, and then seeing God bless us on the other side of it. That's the full picture. And then asking for that wisdom of not necessarily why did I go through this, but okay, trying to understand at the point that we started to go through it, and then asking him to bring to our mind, where we were at that time, because it could start off good and then just that little slight thing of, hey, everything is going well, it's going perfect, decisions look like they're, panning out, and then they don't.
Yeah.
Or they're panning out and everybody's feeling great, and then just that mindset starts to change a little, not necessarily going to him. It's a thing that my guy CJ says in the men's group, it worked so well, we stopped doing it. Oh, I got it now. I got it from here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where, man, everything is going good. I've been praying about these decisions now look like everything is working. And then more decisions continue to come. And now you're not being that same prayer warrior that you were. You're just stepping, and moving and just hoping that everything works out, but you're not doing everything
that you were doing before
at first. And so, yeah.
I definitely feel like that. I feel like I've definitely had those times. I'm sorry, I'm freezing. I've definitely had those times where I feel like everything was working out and, I was doing everything that I was supposed to do. Or not supposed to do, but like my relationship with God was good. And then life got a little too comfortable.
Yeah.
It got a little too good, and I was trying to like lean on my own laurels, and I was like coasting. And I think I talked about this on another podcast. I can't remember if it was this past one or the one before that, when I was just kind of talking about how I would get into a time and everything's going so good that I just like, okay, God, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got it from here. Like, I understand you got me to this point, but okay, now I'm gonna take the wheel. Let me take control. And it's kind of like I forget that he the one who brought me to this point.
Yeah.
So why would I try to then take over myself?
Yeah.
So, Stan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so in marriage, I look at it kind of the same way. You know, you have good seasons in marriage. The whole family dynamic, you know, everything
It's working.
Everything is working. We're able to go on trips. You know, we're being able to do date night. Kids are doing well in school. Everything just seems to be clicking. And then, you know, you're being prayerful for it all. You know, you're asking God to watch over the kids at school, to bring to their remembrance what they've been studying so that they can do well on their test. And then when they come home, hey, I got an A or whatever, you know, you're feeling good about those things. And then asking God to bring you and your wife closer, to allow for opportunities to, you know, kind of get away without the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're doing that. Everything is going well. And then you stop praying and asking in that manner. And then you just start just
going through the motions.
Going through the
really.
yeah, you know, you're trying to live it regardless, and you're not being prayerful in that. You're not asking for that guidance, that provision. And then you still go on the trip, but then now it look like it's a little bit more of a financial burden. You know, kids are doing well, but now there's that notion that we've, you know, trying to keep them busy and putting them in these different things when at first it seemed like it just flowed easily, and then now it's more of a burden. And so it's just getting caught up in that routine and trying to make sure that you know, God stays first. You know, we continue to look toward Him. You know, and as the leader of the family, you know, I feel like all the eyes are on me. And, you know, I've shared with you that, you know, with this book that we did and men's group, Breathing Underwater, there were some things that were brought out that, you know, made me feel sick to my stomach, that the kids may have noticed this.
Mm-hmm.
Those are not good feelings whatsoever. And as much as I want to fight and push back against it, those are the areas of my life that I need to pray. I can't just, you know, I can make a change for a day or for an hour.
Right.
But that's who I am. And I'm not happy with it, you know, in those areas. And so, you know, just trying to remain prayerful and at least allow our oldest to see that, you know. So, you know, she's to the point now where she could see, oh, that was a mistake. Mm-hmm. And it's not my job to cover it up.
Yeah.
You know, it's my job to
acknowledge
own it.
it.
Yeah, I'm gonna acknowledge it, and then we're gonna work through it. You're gonna see the prayer. You're gonna see the constant prayer. You're gonna see the, you know, the reading of scripture, meditating on it, and you're gonna see the action behind that of trying to make it right. Right. You know, that kind of thing. And so, you know, going through this process of getting a house, how we allowed her to see that, you know, the prayer, the struggle, the crying, you know, didn't hide any of that. So she got a chance to see that. I felt like at that moment, although it was very stressful, I feel like that was one of the better moments for me from a leadership standpoint, from a family aspect, at least with her. The other two too young. Yeah. But she had a chance to see and hear what was going on And even said she, prayed on it. So I felt good about that.
Mhm.
And but just trying to set that example, be that example, and not just for the kids, but for you. Um, and at times when I'm weak, and I've been that as of late a lot, I can lean on you, and that helps build me up, and to try to take the reins again from that leadership standpoint, and um, be what God called me to be for my family. And so, um, what that looks like, I don't really know. We're working it out. We're trying to live it out day by day, but remaining prayerful. Not trying to um, be a dictator by any means, and nothing like that. That's not leadership.
Right.
That's not
Right.
leadership. If you're the one that's, what you say go, there's no, questionings behind it, or you're not allowing questions, or what you say go, no ifs, ands, or buts. That's not leadership.
Right.
Um, and if it's like that in your marriage, I feel like, hey, you're on your way out.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And even with the kids, I mean, they have a mind of their own. It's my job as dad to listen.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with them.
Right.
I'm going to listen to them, and not say they're crazy or anything like that. But hey, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to meet you where you are, and then we'll talk about whatever that may be, and then we'll work it out, and hopefully I can help you to see reason
Right.
in that. But I'm not trying to dictate to you. And I know when I say it that way, I'm still dad.
Yeah.
So when discipline is required,
Right.
I don't shy away from that. But it's not always about trying to, put your foot down, and it's my way or the highway kind of
Right.
thing.
Or
It's not
force
that.
your thoughts and opinions on
Yeah.
them because they're people.
Yeah.
They have their own thoughts and opinions. They have to grow up and function in this world
Mm-hmm.
with those thoughts. Like all we can do is show them the way, but it has to be their choice to take go that way.
Yeah.
Because we can't like they say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Yeah.
So all we can do is lead them and hope that when they get thirsty, they know who their source is and where the water comes from.
That's the leadership.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
But I think also leadership is when you make the mistakes, but then when you make the mistakes and you rebound, like allowing them to see how you rebound from the mistakes. Like if there's a certain time or a situation that something goes different or something goes wrong, and you acknowledge it,
Mm-hmm.
and then move forward in a way to remedy that situation and then get things back on track. I think that's leadership as well, because because everybody's going to make a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that's more so mindset.
Yeah.
There are things that I feel like I've failed as a father in the past behind just not being able to provide like I need to. Uh, I'll always be a protector. That's just what that is. But being able to, um, I know it's just a figure of speech, but we're standing on our own, if you will, and not necessarily needing to lean on people heavily.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say there's anything wrong with receiving help or asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that whatsoever. But again, it's the mindset. That's that, the wrong mentality. That's about me.
Mm-hmm.
But showing or allowing them to see, but dad asked for help, and he was able to receive it, and we benefited from that. Yeah, that's a form of leadership for them to be able to see that there's nothing wrong with it. Don't take the attitude or mindset that I got to handle this on my own.
Right. Because I never want them to be somewhere suffering
Mhm.
because they don't want to ask
Don't
for
wanna
help.
ask, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like I said, it comes in all forms. I think, it's the mindset behind it all. Um, and hopefully that they're able to see that. I talk with our oldest about, things that, I've been praying for the family, for her.
Hmm.
And, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But when it doesn't, that doesn't mean that God is against us.
Right.
A lot of times those no's that he give us turn out to be the bigger blessings.
Yeah.
Because
Then yes. Yeah.
so
Especially hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
You look back and you're like, whew, dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah. So
Or, he said no in this situation, but that no opened up a door to something else. And what it opened up the door to was so much better than, what the other door closed was.
but keeping the right mindset though with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said no, oh, you're mad, and you turn away.
And I mean, I think it's okay to grieve, but I don't think you need to, like you said, turn away.
Yeah.
I think it's like, you give yourself time to sit with the disappointment.
Yeah.
And then after you do that, like, all right, God, well, where you have me going from here? Basically.
Needing to have that mindset. Like I said, that's what it is. It's just, I know some feel, well, I prayed several times before, nothing happened. Yeah, I prayed about this, I got that, but I felt like I could have did that anyway, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the mindset, and so that's why I said it just really depends on what your starting point is. If you calling yourself a leader, the head of your household, not behind tax implications, but if you're really
From a biblical standpoint.
from a biblical standpoint, if that's where we're starting, then there's no, it's not like Burger King. You can't have it your way. It's what God says.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to live out. Yeah, we're going to fail, and that's okay. And that's okay. It's about the journey. It's about the process. It's about not making that same mistake again in that fashion, learning from that test and that season that we're in, and then we move on. And, there's a brighter day.
Yeah. Ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you remember this week when I came in and I showed you that pastor, that video from that pastor who was like, some of y'all need to tell y'all wives to just shut your mouth. Shut up.
Yeah.
And that's why y'all been having a problem, y'all, man, because you ain't tell your wife. You should have been told her to shut up. How do you feel about that? I know what I've got to say, but I want to know what you got to say.
His church was packed.
It was packed. And the thing that got me was, if you listen to the video, it was women in the audience saying amen.
But they were told to. They just following directions. Again, you got people that do things for the wrong reason. There's no way he can tell me that that's what God put in his spirit to say. He wrote that down. He thought that up, and he stated that in front of his congregation. That's all him.
Yeah.
That's all him. The bad part is probably a deacon or two, usher member, went home and tried it. That's the bad part. They went home and tried it.
And they messed around and found out.
Yes, they did. They found out
that maybe they wives wasn't the ones they should have told to shut up.
Yeah. And they got to have a meeting with the pastor. That didn't work. So, no, but I just, That's not God didn't. That's not God. That's not God. God didn't direct that. That was him.
Yeah.
That was him.
And I feel like a lot of times we hear stuff from the pastor and like we just assume, like, especially like marriage stuff. I feel like you just can take that sometimes with a grain of salt, unless he's speaking biblically from the Bible and he's quoting scripture and saying this is what God said. If he's telling you how to walk out things in your marriage, like how to actually, oh, this, and this is what you should do, I think you should take it with a grain of salt because some things work for some people, and some things don't. Like last week when you said we're the Hunts, and that's what we're good at. We're good at being the Hunts. You have to be the Joneses, the Johnsons, the Harrises, the Hendersons, whatever, and then do what works best for your family and for your marriage. And like I said, there was some women in the audience saying amen. So maybe that works better for some people.
No. I think that was just
They got caught up in a moment.
Yeah, you were caught up in the moment. You knew you were being recorded. You wanted to support the pastor.
I don't feel that there's any, like, I don't even tell my children to shut up. Yeah. And for somebody to say, oh, you should have, that's the problem you got right now. You should have been told her to shut up.
Was he married?
I'm assuming he was. But here's the question though. There are times when, as a spouse, as your wife, I have had to be corrected. Like, oh, hold on. Like, this was what you were saying, but is that what you meant? Like that kind of situation. There's a way to do that respectfully.
Yeah.
It ain't tell your wife to shut up.
No. And even in those instances where you're saying you need to be corrected, I wouldn't do that in front of people.
Right. And I mean, and I don't even think it's like being correct. Like, I think it's just like,
whether it's, you misspoke, regardless, I wouldn't. I'm going to read the room. I'm going to know the situation. If it's family, certain members of the family, hey, babe, one of those things. But other than that, okay, I'll bring that up later. I'll just say that to myself. I'll bring that up later. And we just keep it kicking.
Yeah. Because I think that it's okay to have a conversation. Like if something is said that shouldn't be said or done that shouldn't be done, it's nothing wrong with having a conversation about it. But I think both parties have to be respectful in the conversation. Not just the woman have to respect the husband and what he says. I think the husband has to respect the woman and the wife and how he brings things to her that may be like a point of contention, or like, hey, we said the budget was this.
Compassion.
Especially with the budget part, he'd be like, you just gotta be like, all right.
You gotta do it. You gotta have compassion with it. Regardless, you don't know how somebody's gonna take it. And if it's a touchy subject, you don't know. So just be mindful of it. You could get your point across without telling someone to shut up or yelling or cursing. You don't have to do those things. I just think that you ran out of vocabulary and you just start yelling. Sometimes it works. May work for you. May work for somebody. That's not me. That's not me. But yeah, no, I didn't. I laughed more than anything when I heard that, from that pastor. I think he was doing it for clicks. Bad part is, I feel like he really feels that way. But he got his clicks. Yeah, he definitely got his clicks. And you got people that are out there that's trying it. But that's the bad part about, using your power. You're in the pulpit, claiming to be a man of God and preaching the word, and you get up there and say that. Show me that. Show me that scripture. So yeah, I think that was more of him than anything else, and maybe brought a conversation or thought of a conversation that was being had, and maybe have some other members in the church dealing with some things or whatever, and sound like it was the men bringing it to him versus being able to have a conversation at home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the response you got.
Yeah.
So, you have to be able to communicate. You got to do that. Nobody can read your mind.
Right.
And just if something needs to be talked about or brought up, and if it's a touchy subject, again, just remember, just have compassion when you bring it up.
Yeah.
Watch your tone. And if need be, hey, go somewhere quiet where you guys can have that conversation. Don't do it amongst people, because again, you don't know how the other person is going to take it.
Right.
So just be thoughtful. How would you want somebody to tell you?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing, and go from there.
If you couldn't tell, Marcus is not an arguer. He does not like to argue.
I won't.
He will not argue. I used to be an arguer.
I'll let you do it.
And it wasn't fun.
I get that from my dad, though.
It wasn't fun arguing by myself.
Yeah, he would always tell me, if you're in an argument, or he would always say, your mama like to argue, but if I don't ever say anything, you can't keep it going. You're gonna get mad that I'm not saying anything, and then you're gonna walk off. You're gonna come back, and I'm still not saying anything. It'll be, and I know a lot of people, when I would say that, some of my fellows growing up or whatever, oh man, that you're taking the coward way out. Or I'm just allowing her to vent, and I can bring peace back to the house much quicker than you trying to fuss back.
Yeah.
You want to get your point across. Now you just got two people yelling.
Mm-hmm.
And then that'll lead to somebody saying something that they can't take back.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't really mean it, but now it's said, and what's done is done.
It's out there.
And now that other person is thinking of that. You were holding on to that
all this time.
Or
Mm-hmm.
you said that you knew that was going to really hurt me. Now I won't argue.
Yeah.
I'll just take it.
Mm-hmm. I learned that very early, probably like year 2 of dating. It took that long. I was just trying, like, won't you? And push this button.
Leadership. Know when the button is being pushed.
And then go the other way.
Abort mission. That's it. That is it. That works for the hunts.
Yeah.
For me.
I mean, because some people like to argue. Some people, they thrive.
So I'm just saying.
Every time, babe.
But that's what it is.
Every time.
They know.
Every time.
I'm just saying, it is like great makeup.
Anyway.
So, but
some people thrive on confrontation, husband and wife, and if that works for you, do you, boo? Enjoy. It just don't work for the hunts. So I'm not saying, we're not telling you what to do. We just saying what works for us or what doesn't work for us. Yeah. So, another thing I talked about. So like I said before, what I talked about from Sunday showers was that, like, how the leader goes, the people go. Mm-hmm. So do you feel that that's the same way, like in a marriage and in a family? Like, do you feel like the husband sets the tone for the family?
Again, where you starting from? He should. Mm-hmm. He should. But we both know that that's not always the case. And that's okay. You can't force anything. You definitely don't want somebody trying to take on a leadership role that truly don't have a clear view of what that is. And let alone be the other person trying to follow it.
Yeah.
So again, you know, again, you can be good at something. Your spouse can be better at some things. That's the delegating part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, baby, you handle this. You know, you're better at this than I am. I'll watch, try to learn, see how you do it. But um, I just think that the word leadership could get, you know, bad rap behind that. You know, you can have bad bosses, you got bad spouses, you got,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's that's on the individual of how they either learn to lead. That's what they think needs to happen, or that kind of thing. Oh well, I saw it done this way, and it appeared that everything was good, so I'm going to do it this way. But you're going to do it, you know, sort of like I would tell guys, and you know, that were superintendents or project managers. I could show you what it is that you need to know, but I can't teach you how to relay that to your subs.
Right.
That's on you.
Okay.
That's your twist to it. You
Yeah.
know, you have to have your own flavor with that. So, but this is what you need to know.
Right.
This is what's going on right here. Now, how do you relay that? Your relationship with them, that's between you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
So, likewise, it's, you know, I've had good bosses, I've had bad bosses. I'm able to take something from all of them,
Right.
but being mindful and being prayerful and asking God to show me what He'll have me to do. Now, again, if that husband or man in your life does not have that as the starting point, then now things are going to be subjective, you know. And even with that, uh, being the starting point,
With God
with God,
being the starting point.
with God being the starting point, uh, you know, where is the man or where is your husband in his walk?
Right.
You know, and just, but the only way you would know as the spouse, baby, that doesn't seem right.
Is if you got
You
your
got
walk.
your walk right. So, but again, um, I just feel like if, you know, your starting point is with God, then, and if you're truly sincere about, um, you know, following after Him and following the playbook, which is the Bible, again, we're going to get it wrong. You know, we're not perfect. We're not going to get it right
Every time.
every time. But at least if your significant other can see that, you know, and if they're on the same wavelength,
If they
as you,
see that you're following God or attempting to follow God.
attempting to, you
Yeah.
know, at least then they know. I know what you were trying to do.
Yeah. I know
what you
your
were trying. I
intentions were
know the
good.
intention, and so, but without that, I just think that, you know, sometimes yes, you can guess right.
Yeah.
You can guess right, and sometimes you can guess right 8 out of 10 times,
Yeah.
and then you get that false sense of security in what it is that you're doing,
And you
and
feel like you know best and
yeah,
you know how to do this. And
mhm.
yeah.
And you're setting up and you're leading in that manner, and you are, you know, your actions and even your speak is
Arrogant.
arrogant in that manner,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what you're showing, and so now the people in your household is feeding off of that. That's what they do.
Mm.
My dad, you know, hey, he didn't go through all of that. My dad did this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know, that's good for your dad.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. But when it goes bad, now how does dad respond?
Yeah.
You know, does dad pull a Adam? Lord, you gave this woman to me. You know, do you point the finger? Do you try to blame other people, or do you take accountability?
Responsibility.
You know? Yeah. So, um, yeah, I think that we can go a lot of different places with leadership. It's just again, hopefully your starting point is God.
Yeah,
You
I
know
think
what I'm
that's
saying?
the most important thing in any aspect of your relationship is that if you're trying to build a marriage and a family, that the starting point is God. Yeah. Because I mean, when you're standing at that altar, I think that like a lot of people will have asked me before, like, what do you, like, how do y'all make it work or what do y'all do? And I was like, honestly, I said, I think the best thing that we did was understand that divorce was not an option. So once you take that off the table, then it's like, okay, well, how are we going to make it work?
Yeah.
So like if we get into it and I can't leave, like, oh, leaving is not as long as it's an option to leave, as long as it's an option to go sleep in the other room, as long as it's an option to go somewhere else, then you're gonna take that up as an option. But if that's not a possibility, then you figure it out. Um, and so I think that like with God, so when you're standing at that altar and you make those vows, you're not just making them to each other, you're making them to God about each other as well. Like I'm promising to God that I'm going to love, honor, and obey him as long as we both shall live and all that. And so when you look at it from that aspect, when you put God in the mix, in the midst of it, then you realize that, I mean, it ain't nothing to it but to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
There are times and situations where um, trying to make it work may not just be for you.
well, but I'm saying
No, I
stand at the
hear what you're
altar
saying.
before
Yeah.
God. So that
Yeah.
means that we're
I never
in that
said
situation, you're not unequally yoked. In that situation, you are both, God followers, or at least attempting to have a relationship with him. And it's another question I want to ask you. So just remind me, that's another question I want to ask you if I forget.
Okay.
But, and so like from that aspect, like I understand like abuse and things like that.
But how do you get to that point?
How do you get to the point of abuse?
Yeah, if you
I feel like, I mean, I don't know because I've never been in an abusive relationship, but I kind of feel like it doesn't just start after a wedding.
yeah. But sometimes people will tell you who they are. You just have to listen.
Yeah. Every time
Yeah.
people will tell you who they are, you just have to
I
listen.
say sometimes because sometimes they have their other representative there
Mm,
until they get you where they wanted you the whole time.
mm.
Meaning, I'm Mr. Nice Guy. We're going, I'm gonna take you
Whining and
out, wine and
dining.
dine. We're gonna do all of these things. I'm gonna make you fall in love.
Anything that falls gets hurt
You fall in love.
or
You
gets broken.
fall on the cloud. Don't hurt. You fall through it. But once the I do's are said, then that guy is different. Or that woman is different. And it's like, well, what's going on? But now I can be me. I got you now.
Mm.
So in that event, I'm just saying, well, obviously now that's not the leader you thought.
Yeah.
What do you do then? Now, hopefully you have, as the significant other, you have a firm foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I would, again, it would start with prayer. It would start with counseling, whether that's you and your significant other or not. It would start with those two items there. And if God is putting something on your mind, I'm not going to sit here and say, um, he's not or he wouldn't, but you know if you need to be in that situation or not. So
Yeah.
I'm just bringing that up just so that someone is listening that or watching, I should say, that if you're going through something, abuse or whatever, and it's something that won't end until you end it, you got to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
You got to do what's best for you.
What's safe for you? because God don't want you in a situation
Yeah.
that where you're being hurt or
Yeah.
abused.
And then you factor in kids into that situation. And so no, you know, not telling you to blindly overlook those things and ask God to, hey, God bless me in this, bless my husband to stop doing these things. And not saying to not to pray that, but if that's not taking place, then you know there are other things that need to be done. So
Yeah.
other steps that needs to be taken. So I just wanted to put that out there so it wouldn't be like, oh well, you know, the Hunts told us to, you know, or told me to stick it out. This is tough. You know, this is not what I signed up for. This is not the same person that did these things prior to marriage, and now it's totally different. This person is abusive. Um, you know, and I'm saying it more so from the abusive standpoint, not necessarily, oh, this person has changed from what he was or what she was until now. If it's not from an abusive standpoint,
Or a
then
negative
something
aspect.
like that.
Because people change.
Yeah.
People grow up and mature, and things, life experiences make people change.
Yeah.
Having another person in your space 24 hours, like sharing a home with somebody, changes people. Having children, being pregnant, changing jobs, changing careers, having different aspirations. Parents' health changes people. Losing, grief changes people. Losing family members and friends changes people. So everything that somebody goes through changes them a little bit. It's kind of like turning something a little bit at a time. It takes a little while sometimes for you to notice how much it's changed them until there have been a couple of things, that has happened. But
and then it comes with age.
Yeah.
It just comes with age. I mean, we're not the same people we were at 18.
No, we've been together since we was 18. Yeah. And I mean, and also like it's stuff that I would be like, oh yeah, I don't really want to do this, but I'll do it when I was 18. And now I'm just like, no, I ain't doing it. It's like, it's a no for me. And so now I think that that's like something we have to get used to, where, I mean, I was probably a lot more agreeable in my youth. And now I'm just tired. I got 3 kids, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to see them. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. But instead of pulling away in those instances, you just have to learn, who that person is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which could be fun.
Yeah.
Or not. But it could be fun.
It's always been fun, right?
Yeah.
With me.
Mm-hmm.
But the question I was going to see, I remembered. Oh, you cutting off your circulation?
Man, it's been
The question I was going to ask you, because you said you made a comment about somebody saying, "Oh, my dad, did it this way, and this is how, and it worked for him." So, like, what do you think about like people using their parents as an example of like, oh, well, this is what my parents did, or this is like our husbands, like, this is how my dad ran the house, so this is how I'm gonna run my house.
I mean, I guess it just depends on what that example was. I mean, I don't feel that it's wrong to have that as a thought. I mean, it worked for your dad's household.
Or maybe it did. It might not have.
But again, from that point of view.
From your perspective, yeah.
That point of view. But I can't answer it. I think that if things seemed well, or, everybody seemed okay, you had happy times. I mean, you're going to have sad moments and things of that nature, but I don't object to it. But you have to be aware that just because it worked well, in your opinion, when you were a kid and you're looking at your dad doesn't mean it's going to work well now.
Yeah.
Things are totally different now than what they were then. More distraction,
Mm-hmm.
more availability to temptation. And then just you're not your dad.
Yeah.
You know,
And your wife is not your
not your
mom.
mom. That kind of thing. Your kids aren't you.
Yeah.
So I just think that nothing wrong with trying to take a piece of what you remember
And what you feel like worked.
And try to mesh that with what you have currently going on. There's no book that, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. This is when you need to do it. No, that's life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get it right sometimes. You're going to get it wrong sometimes. But being able to stand firm and own up to the times where it was wrong, communicate that, correct it.
Yeah.
But I don't see it being a bad thing.
Yeah. I think that also sometimes because you can take stuff that you saw in your household that you feel like worked, and then you could try that. Or you could be like, oh, my parents did this, and like, I ain't never doing that. Like, I think I talked about, I don't know if it was in the book or on a podcast or what, that I was like, man, when I go to college, I ain't gonna never go, like, when I get out of my parents' house, I ain't gonna never go to church.
Yeah.
And then where am I every Sunday in church, and where my kids every Sunday in church, because I know it works.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also people who really did do that. They was like, oh, when I get out of my parents' house, I ain't never going to church. And they don't ever go to church. So I think that it just depends on the person. And then it's people who didn't grow up with a firm foundation, but they are fervently, like every Sunday, they in church, they volunteering, they doing Bible studies and stuff. So I think it just depends like on the person. And I think it depends on your spouse. Because I feel like if your spouse is more spiritual, then it opens you up to be, if depending on the person. Because and I mean, I think also depending on who has I don't want to say who has the stronger personality, because I have a boisterous personality, meaning I'm more in your face, and Marcus is more chill and subdued. But I definitely take him seriously as far as like, okay, listen, this what it's gonna be, and this what it's gonna be. So I don't be like, and it's not that I'm scared of him, I just respect him in that way. So, but I feel like maybe if somebody, because I'm trying to figure out how to say this, because if you have a spouse, like if you're married and your wife was like in the church and she's like fervently in the church, but you like, I could take it or leave it. But if she's more outgoing and forward than you are, she might drag you along. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that? It just depends on the person.
Yeah, it depends on the person, because I know too many where it's one or the other that are, in the church, and the other person couldn't care, about it. So, and it's not that they don't have a belief in God or anything of that nature. I don't feel like they maybe have a good relationship. It's one of those ones where I know he's there, and when I need him or feel like I need him, then I go, kind of thing. But yeah, I just think that's more, individual based.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel like that the husband should be the one, like like should always be the spiritual leader, or do you feel like that there are times when the wife, like where it's kind of like depending on who's weak and who's strong, or do you think that it's always the husband?
I think it should be both. You have kids, you have daughters, they're looking at mom.
Mm-hmm.
How's mom responding? Regardless if they say that or not, to you,
Mm-hmm.
they're watching.
Yeah.
They're watching. So, there's leadership in that. They're watching you, and they're seeing how you respond. And those are, some things that as they're able to get older, they'll look back on. I remember my mom always praying. I remember my mom always in church. And I don't know how we got through this. I don't know how she was able to deal with this when this happened. That's the foundation of it.
Yeah.
And then, and then if you're taking your kids to church, whether they're paying attention or not, something about that, sticks with them.
Yeah.
And then with the way things are now with technology and social media and all of that, man, kids just have so much at their fingertips, and they, experience all the emotions every single day just by reading something on their phone.
Yeah.
They need it more than, they need Christ more than, I think more than ever now. Not to say they didn't need it back then, kids didn't need it back then, or we didn't need it back then. It's just,
the enemy has
parents,
so many.
Yeah,
like, because it used to be like TV went off.
Yeah.
And so it was like the enemy might come in on a show, possibly, or maybe a phone call, or maybe something you experienced at school. But like, you had your house. And if your parents was like, okay, we go to church on these days, the TV goes off at this time, no phone calls after that. It's like you had that cocoon that you can form in your home of safety kind of for your kids. But with the way technology is now, like, they just get on, like our kids, I think, watch YouTube more than they watch regular TV. Like, why do we have cable? Because he like football and basketball and baseball. That's basically it. Because it's like our kids very rarely watch, TV. They watch all the apps, Hulu, Disney Plus, all of that, and YouTube. That's what they watch.
Yeah.
And so it's like all of this stuff that they are being exposed to. It's just, I think it's more than what we were exposed to.
Oh yeah, more definitely. But we know how to interact with people.
Yeah.
Which again, that's something that they will struggle at because they spend so much time in front of that phone or that computer. Sending the text when the person is
sitting right next to them,
that kind of thing. So, definitely. Even from a standpoint of bullying. When we were in school, bullying stopped at 3:00.
Yeah. Or maybe if you took the bus, it stopped when you got to your stop on the bus stop.
Yeah. So like now it's 24/7.
Yeah.
It's 24/7. That's something to be said about, confronting your fear, that bully. Okay, you might get your butt whooped today.
That's then though, because now the bully might bring something to school.
Yeah.
But
you can't stop that.
The times are.
It's just different.
Yeah.
So, but again, teaching that to the kids and still showing them how to defend themselves, but teaching that, sometimes there are times when you have to defend yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes it's better just to walk away.
But if you're not taught that, then you find yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. I think. Do you have anything else to say? We kind of went all over.
Yeah.
So, but what it did make me, like you said something. When you said about I'm gonna make her fall in love with me, it made me think of what we could talk about next time. Yep. Do you fall in love or do you make the choice?
Hollywood say you fall. Sales. You fall.
I think you make the choice. So we'll talk about that next week.
The choice to fall. Okay, I'll go ahead.
We'll talk about that next week on Wedded Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.